Okay, for the next hour, I'm going to have Paul DERIENZO is going to be first. It's actually a pre-recorded interview because not everybody's always available on Tuesday evenings between 6 and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but it was actually recorded just about 4 hours ago today. Paul DERIENZO is an investigative journalist. He writes for whowhatwhy.com. And not let them talk. And yeah, he's actually been a resident of New York in the Lower East Side for over 20 years. So he's going to talk about nuclear waste that's been going on. He did a report on it, and the article can be found at whowhatwhy.com. And so here is that interview with Paul DERIENZO. Okay, today is Tuesday, June the 9th. It's just past 3 in the afternoon, just 3 hours pre-recorded interview with Paul DERIENZO, investigative reporter at whowhatwhy.com. You previously worked at the New York City Department of Education, Pacifica, and Gary Null and Associates.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Welcome to Organic News on Awake Radio, Paul DERIENZO.
Okay, thank you, Kat. It's really nice to be here.
So you were on RT last night talking about something that you're writing about on nuclear
waste, yeah,
and the possible destruction and environmental damage and war that can come from it.
Mm-hmm.
So, how is it that you came to investigate nuclear waste?
Well, I received a grant from the George Polk Awards to do research on the Hanford site in Washington, near Richland, Washington, on the Columbia River, which was a huge industrial operation that for many years produced plutonium, which is used in bombs, for the United States nuclear weapons complex. That's generally the official term because it's such a large operation that has so many places all across the country over so many decades. The whole operation is called the nuclear weapons complex. And one of the key parts of the nuclear weapons complex were the reactors at Hanford, Washington, which were built in 1942 and 1943 to produce plutonium for the bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki, Japan. And it continued on after that. 9 reactors were built, each one of them a production reactor, except for the 9th one, which was a dual reactor. It was both a production reactor and in other words, producing plutonium, and a power reactor. It was called dual use. Something that if other countries were to produce, make today, like Iran was making a dual use reactor, one that makes both weapons grade plutonium and electric power, it would be considered the worst thing in the world. But the U.S. really pioneered it, although other countries have made them as well. And it was the only one ever built in the United States. And when it was closed down in 1987, after the Chernobyl disaster, the United States really lost its ability to produce plutonium in large quantities. And the reason why in 1987 they shut down the M reactor was because it was a very similar design to the Chernobyl reactor, which had blown up and caused a tremendous amount of headaches in Europe and in Ukraine and along the rivers there, where whole areas to this day are off limits to humans because of the high radioactivity in the soil that came when the reactor exploded. So it was a similar design to Chernobyl, and the public was very upset about it. There was a study, and they decided to shut it down. So since then, in 1987 till today, there's been a massive attempt at a cleanup at Hanford, but considering how much pollution was thrown into the water, air, and soil around Hanford, which is larger than New York City, over 500 square miles, it's probably safe to say it'll never be cleaned, ever.
Right.
And so, in the course of this study, I discovered that there was a time back in the 1960s and early 1970s where the state of New York offered its services as a state under then Governor Nelson Rockefeller to take in waste that was produced in Hanford, mostly the end reactor, and process it as a for-profit operation here in New York State. So they moved the waste from Hanford to New York State. And what's interesting is that the deal was that the federal government, if the private company, National NFS, Nuclear Fuel Systems Incorporated, if they ever could not get enough reactor fuel from commercial nuclear reactors to keep their business going and make it profitable, that they would be subsidized by the federal government, which would send spent fuel from the end reactor to New York to make up for that. So it turned out they never could get enough commercial nuclear waste to make profit, so the federal government sent hundreds of tons of waste from their factory in Washington State, the end reactor, to New York State, western New York State, about 30 miles from Buffalo, for processing there. Well, they had barely started this process and sent hundreds of tons of waste there when NFS Incorporated shut down their operation because in the 1960s, safety requirements were very primitive and not required. And by the 1970s, they had much stricter requirements as to how they had to build it, how they had to store the waste, all these kind of things. So there was no way that NFS was going to be able to build, and no way a business like that could ever be. In 1960s was way different than 1970s. By the 1970s, there was just no way a private company was going to be a nuclear fuel reprocessor because there was too many safety concerns and requirements that did not exist 10 years earlier. So they had to close it down. So they closed it down and left behind 600,000 gallons of highly radioactive waste, which was leaching into the soil in the swampy conditions. Like today, you talk about nuclear fuel, we're hiding it and burying it. You do it in the desert. It's bad there too, and people don't want it there. But you do it in the desert because there's no water in the desert. You do it in New York, in western New York State, which is an extremely wet environment, and it gets leached by the rivers, creeks, and streams that exist there directly into the Great Lakes. And so you have plutonium turning up in the soil, and the rivers, and the creeks, and it's the Great Lakes. So the people who live around there are outraged. They want it ended. So they found a way to store this waste temporarily by turning it into a glass-like substance called vitrification. And the glass encased highly radioactive waste was then to be shipped to this place called the Waste Isolation Pilot Plant in Washington, in New Mexico, in the deserts of New Mexico. So they were going to send it down there for storage. And about 1 year ago, last April, 2014, one of the barrels of waste exploded. 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit. It burned a lot of things and released plutonium, which was detected up to 30 miles away from the explosion.
Where was this barrel when it exploded?
And they put it in a underground, the Waste Isolation Pilot Plant is an underground, multi-billion, 30 years to build facility.
In New Mexico.
Where all the defense, in the desert of New Mexico, in Carlsbad, New Mexico, in the middle of nowhere. And they were supposed to put this stuff there for 250,000 years. And in fact, it lasted 15 years before it started leaking. That's what you call a massive failure. And so the federal government turned out, they did an investigation. They found out that the explosion was caused because they packed the waste with kitty litter. Organic kitty litter, pardon me. They were supposed to pack it in clay-based inorganic kitty litter, but they misread the instructions. Inorganic became inorganic. The typo. So they packed it in organic kitty litter. Organic kitty litter reacted with the liquid that they were supposed to absorb in each of these barrels and formed a patented plastic explosive. In other words, they should have known if they put these things together, it would form a plastic explosive because the exact chemicals have been used to make plastic explosives and patented by somebody. So they actually should have, when they typed in, you know, they're supposed to keep very close records of what they're putting in these barrels. So when they typed it into the computer, it should have popped up, oh, you can't do that. It makes a plastic explosive who belongs to somebody else. So, you know, that's how it works, you know, in this weird world we live in. And they didn't pop up, they didn't notice it. That they were actually making, by mixing these substances together, they were actually in each barrel, which was supposed to, you know, be inert for 250,000 years, actually making a bomb out of each one.
Oh my God. I mean, you think they would have...
As it should have been predicted, it exploded.
You think they would have backed it up with some verbal instructions?
Who knows? You know, it's all popping out little by little, bits and pieces, and the whole truth has yet to come out. Because it came out after all of this. The spies, the people who told the people who were the whistleblowers in all of this, were the state of New Mexico, which actually supports putting this stuff there. And so, because they get money from it. So you might wonder, why would the state of New Mexico snitch out the feds? Because they didn't want to pay for it. If it continues a secret, then they're going to be stuck paying for it like nothing happened, right? So they didn't want to pay for it. So they had to snitch out that there was 500 barrels, not one barrel involved.
I mean, okay, so
500 potential bombs, and they don't know where all of them are, scattered through the nuclear waste processing facilities, that any one of them could pop off as an explosion at any time.
Exactly, and they don't. Okay, well,
No, they all are now.
They don't. Right, they don't know where they all are.
Yes, for sure.
And they don't know what made this one particular one explode before the others.
Who knows? Nobody's telling us.
And this is not on the news.
In the local paper, it's covered very extensively in the New Mexico newspapers and in the newspapers near Buffalo. But and the New York Times has given. Usually, New York Times just like covers the story as if it was more a story about people arguing at the local community boards over whether they want it or not, and how most people really want it. You know, that kind of way. They more like a not really a story about nuclear waste, but a story about whether or not, you know, the colorful characters in New Mexico who are arguing about it.
So what is the plan? How are they going to, you know...
Nothing. It's going to be years, many, many years before it's put back online. So the waste in places like New York State are just going to sit there for years. That desperately people there want to get rid of. You know, the people down in New Mexico didn't. Some of them want it, and some of them for the money, and some of them don't want it. The ones who are more progressive don't want it. It's just going to sit in New York State for years more.
And so how is it that they don't know where these barrels are?
They were supposed to know where they were.
I mean, they put them
It's a
somewhere.
foundation of rules that they don't know where they are, yes.
I mean, how do you not know where 500 barrels...
That wasn't supposed to happen.
I mean, someone doesn't know where they are. I mean, someone has to know.
Nobody knows where they are. They were not properly. They promised the public that this would not happen.
And so, I mean, people are just going to sit by and wait for another one of these barrels.
It's going to cost $500 million minimum to fix it. The problem.
Unbelievable. Okay, I think we'll maybe move to the next story, which is a little bit less stressful. On Sunday, you spoke a bit at the Punk Island event that was at Tompkins Square Park, and you've been a native of the Lower East Side of New York City for 20 years?
More than that, but we'll leave it at that, yes.
And so you talked about an anniversary of...
Right, it was the 20th anniversary this week, over the last couple of weeks, of the eviction of the 13th Street squatters.
And so, right, 30 years ago...
20 years ago. 20 years ago this week, it was the eviction of the 13th Street squatters.
And what happened 20 years
ago? Well, 4 buildings were filled with family people and working poor and homeless people who had found places to live and had formed, really wonderful housing situations, were evicted violently by thousands of police who used a tank.
Right. They fixed these places up and made them like, somewhat habitable, right?
People go to the Lower East Side today and they think it was all yuppies like it is today, paying $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 a month rent, and it isn't like that. It wasn't like that. It was a forgotten, ignored neighborhood of desperately poor people, and so the government did nothing for these people, so they started doing things for themselves. And as soon as they established a living situation for themselves that was respectful and respectable, they were evicted violently by the New York City Police Department, who used thousands of police, used violence, and a tank to spearhead their evictions.
Because back then, real estate was actually moving into the Lower East Side.
And back then it was before real estate was moving into New York. Although people had planned for that to eventually happen, in those days it was more about giving over the land to organizations that were pretty much led by people like Antonio Pagan, who had risen as sort of people of the people in these housing organizations and turned out to be sellouts to the landlord interests. And what they wanted to do as their payoff for politically being prostitutes to these pimps, their reward was to be awarded properties that squatters lived in, that they could develop through their little poverty pimp organizations at the time.
Unbelievable. And so
and their reward was these buildings.
And all the squatters they were just trying to have affordable housing.
They get into a beautiful communal situation. It was very political. It was very families were involved, homeless people. In one case, a family of El Salvadoran people were found, children, husbands, and wives, the whole deal, living in a shed, that you keep your tools in, that they had snuck into in a community garden. And they found a whole family living in there, in this tool shed. And turned out they had really cool skills. They were brought into the squats, and they helped fix them up beautifully. They were evicted as well.
And what happened to those people?
I think they had skills, and they did well after that. It was the squats turned out to be quite a leg up for people who were in bad situations.
Did they get community support after?
Well, yeah, the community support was that they needed thousands of police to force people out, and it was actually a bigger riot than the Tompkins Square Park riot. It went on for days before they got everybody out of there. And then when they finally got them out, people snuck back in on the 4th of July 20 years ago, and as people were coming back from the fireworks display in the East River, and it became another big, huge confrontation with the police, and they weren't expecting that. And that was front page newspapers at the time. The 4th of July battle.
Unbelievable.
For freedom, a real freedom battle.
And the battle still wages on today for affordable housing.
And the Lower East Side.
Well, thank you.
My point was, you could lose, we may have lost every battle, but we could still win the war, because Shelley Silver, the person who was behind all this at the time then, was just recently, if you read the papers, indicted for corruption, and it turns out that the money they made gouging people on the Lower East Side and evicting homeless people from their squats on the Lower East Side actually amounted to billions of dollars, which they used to invest on Billionaires Row on 57th Street, and that in turn was done with corrupt intent, and they have all been indicted.
Are any of them in jail?
That's a happy day, I guess. Although I doubt if they'll be convicted in the end.
Well, Well, that's what we have to work on.
Yeah, at least they were indicted. So, like, we used to say they were corrupt bums then, and they called us communists and anarchists and every dirty word in the book. And it turned out that we, rather than being anarchists and communists, were family people working to survive in New York City and to bring, you know, some civilization to the city. And they were part of the corrupt political machine.
Thank you very much.
As soon as somebody starts calling an anarchist or communist or Tea Party or you should start looking to see if they're corrupt. That's the lesson I learned.
And that was, again, you spoke at the now it's called Puke Island. It used to be called Punk Island Festival, and that was the point of that festival on Sunday was to sort of resurrect a bit of, you know, rebellion to the system and the billionaires at the expense of the average person.
Yeah, it was good. I was glad. I was happy to speak there, and I supported wholeheartedly.
Yeah, you and Priya Reddy. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Paul DERIENZO. And people can find your.
Thanks.
What is it?
Yeah, well, my name is Paul DERIENZO. I have a public access cable show on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, live every Tuesday at 8 p.m., so I'll be on tonight. And you can watch I make the videos of them and put it up on my YouTube site, which is youtube.com/letemtalk, LETEMTALK.
Thank you, Paul DERIENZO.
Thank you.
I'll see you again soon.
See ya. Bye.
Okay, bye. Okay, that was Paul DERIENZO. So the next, again, this is from yesterday, Dan BiDONDI, who attended the last Freedom of Information Act hearing that happened last Wednesday on June the 3rd, that I attended the one previous to that, but I wasn't able to make this one. And he's just going to give an update on what happened at the in Hartford, Connecticut. Okay, it is Monday, June the 8th. We have Dan BiDONDI. It's just a recorded because Dan is not available Tuesday evening. And so Dan BiDONDI, you were at the FOIA hearing on June the 2nd, which was last Tuesday.
Oh, June 3rd, I'm sorry. It's June 3rd, Wednesday.
Oh, that's right. It was Wednesday, June the 3rd.
Well, thanks for having me. I wish you were there. I mean, it got pretty exciting.
Yeah, I was there for the last one when Police Chief Kehoe was questioned, and the school maintenance, head of maintenance, was questioned, and
yep.
And so what happened this time? The helicopter pilot was the kind of the key witness, I believe, that didn't show up.
Yeah, he was supposed to be there, and he was subpoenaed last time. The attorney Monte Frank, he took it upon himself to dismiss him from showing up, which is illegal because Kay Wilson, that's Wolfgang's attorney, they sent a subpoena for him to be there. Well, this time the excuse was that he was out on military training drill. So because that would have been very important because the Sandy Hook, I keep saying Sandy Hook, the Newtown police chief, Mr. Kehoe, he stated on record that we had no communication with the helicopter in the sky. Or who told him to leave, who told him to stay, who gave him directions in the first place when it's on record that the state police of Connecticut provide air support for Newtown police.
Right, that was in the previous, because I was there for that one when he was saying that, right, like the ground had absolutely, like, no transmission whatsoever with the police helicopter.
Absolutely.
Which is, right, ridiculous.
Yeah, so, we're looking at total fraud, and, the big thing was Homeland Homeland Security. Oh, I'm sorry, they distracted me with my other phone ringing. But the biggest thing of the night was when Kay Wilson asked, which named Patricia Laura, she's the Newtown first selectman of Newtown, Connecticut. They were asked about the sign, which at the first hearing when you were there, remember Attorney Frank kept saying it was just hearsay, and Wolf was trying to show, hey, it's all over the media, shows the signs on the videos and everything else. There's the signs, and he tried to say it was hearsay, but Newtown had no choice to make, yeah, there were signs. And what did they do? The Newtown first selectman said she had nothing to do with it, she had no log of it, and she was asked, who put those signs there? And she goes, I think it was Homeland Security. Bam, right there, that was huge. And you know, it just confirms even more, and like we talked about earlier, before, that Homeland Security were there that day doing drills for school shootings. So they already had the signs in place. Hours later, the porta potties arrived. I mean, this is a total mockings of a false flag altogether. And people say, why bring this up? It's about 2-3 years old, whatever, and what happened in 2012 there. It's almost 3 years old. Why are we bringing this up? Because, folks, this is very huge. This is very important. You need to understand it so this doesn't happen again. Now, regardless of people out there listening right now, if you believe the kids were killed or if you believe the kids weren't killed, okay, just as devil's advocate, okay, the kids were killed, okay? This is why we're bringing it up, so real kids don't die out of this. And, you know, I mean, the thing is, the government knows no boundaries. Even if they did or didn't kill kids, okay, they know no boundaries. They'll kill kids just to push an agenda.
And so when you using the word selectmen?
Yep.
And so that's just someone that the town is calling forth to represent itself? Who was this woman? Who was she?
These, I guess when I was on the website earlier, I don't know what a selectman is. I think they're in charge of some finances or whatever, but she's part of the town of Newtown.
And the sign, right, because I've seen pictures of it. What building was that on where people were being asked to check in? And check in.
The signs were the mobile signs.
So
mobile electronic construction like signs.
And wasn't there another sign like above a building, like telling people to check in for, like there's a picture of I don't know, like some house type building with the sign.
Well, I didn't see that one. I just seen the other ones with the street ones, you know, the portable ones.
Okay, and so they're also looking for the log, right, for that sign-in log?
Correct. That's what one of the requests for the FOIA was. So they want access to that log to see who signed in, who signed out, whatnot. And the town of Newtown denied having. First, they denied that it even existed. It was just hearsay. But they had to admit it. Then they said no, it wasn't us. It was Homeland Security. So now Wolf's his next thing he said is to go after Homeland Security for that log.
And so, right, so they had this all in place before this supposed shooting took place.
Oh yeah, the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle was set up. It was just, the thing is, it's the same spin image of Boston, Massachusetts, where they admitted on record that they were doing drills in the same two locations where the bombs went off, and the bombs go off, and all of a sudden, it's a terrorist attack now. You know what I mean? And it's all coming out. I mean, these people are losing, and regardless of what the mainstream media is spewing out there, you know what I mean? Us alternative media would destroy mainstream media. I mean, we could get stuff out faster than mainstream media and the real truth because we have the videos from being there. You know what I mean? And it's sickening, it really is. And it's only a matter of time. The mainstream media is dying. The dinosaur media is dying. And it's coming to an end, and the people are going to become. Actually, they are starting to become aware now of the fraud, and most people now do challenge or even have questions about Sandy Hook.
And who was the other person that got questioned besides the woman?
Yeah, it was Police Chief Michael Kehoe, and also I forgot the gentleman's name. He was the maintenance man that was there last time.
Right. Oh, so both of them got questioned again?
Yep.
Because I did watch the live stream. It didn't.
I did miss the first hour when I got there because I was under the assumption it started at 10:30, and when we got there, it was about 10:30, and it already had an hour going off already. So I guess I got the time wrong, but we did catch the last half of it and everything else, and right on live stream TV, and it was great. And because like a lot of people tuned in and to see. Because if the mainstream media, they'll talk about, oh, there was a hearing today, this happened. But when people get to see the live stream for themselves, they can make their own judgment from there and see the truth from there.
I mean, like, so the people that say, like, oh, this happened some years ago, why are you bringing it up? And, I mean, it's never been resolved. That's why. I mean,
exactly.
Same thing.
It's every day. I mean, every time we dig into this, we'll find something new. We'll find out, oh, wait, the rabbit hole's going even deeper now.
Right. I mean, don't people want to know the truth?
Exactly. And, most people like to be lied to, sugar-coated truth and everything else. On the mainstream media said, oh, no, it was just a terrorist, but he's dead now. And, this kid that, just so aggravated.
Lanza, Adam Lanza.
Yeah, Adam Lanza, and he's dead now, and now we gotta take guns away because guns are bad. If there was an armed security guard there, if it was legit, if there was an armed security guard there, that would have never happened.
And the fact that I just think it's really, really suspicious that they destroyed that building. They destroyed the Sandy Hook School.
And the reason why they destroyed it because when Wolf had and his lawyer, they had the maintenance men up there on the stand there, showing them pictures right after the shooting. The building was decrepit, mold everywhere, stuff that any other school in the country would have been shut down because of the mold and everything else, the condition of the building. And even before, we heard reports about Newtown residents being threatened to keep their mouths shut. People came out to say the school has been closed down for years. They had no idea what the hell kids were even doing there. And this is a giant psyops mind job. That's all it is. And, there's people out there that think, this is where they take the guns away. Or they use a Bushmaster. The Bushmaster wasn't even used in the shooting, if the shooting even took place in the first place. And it's just like, it's just like, it's mind-boggling.
And so Wolfgang Halbig, his response after it was all over.
Me and him came up with this word because both times we were there. The word unbelievable, and just like he said unbelievable. We should stop making T-shirts. Unbelievable, Newtown, Connecticut, because Sandy Hook, because that's the perfect word that both of us describe what's going on. Because these people lie. They lie right in the stand. They shoot themselves in the foot constantly. And it's all coming out. And like when we confronted, like right after the hearing, I said I confronted right away the Newtown police chief, which is he put his resignation in hours before the hearing. That all came out in the Connecticut Current and Connecticut media that Michael Kehoe, the police chief of Newtown, put his resignation in. And that's very suspicious. And it's like these people are backing out now because they know the heat's coming down. And Attorney Monty Frank, I confronted him afterwards, right after the police chief. And now I'm talking about that you can't get a better person to his description, the way he looks and talks. This guy is somebody out of Central Casting that they chose, literally somebody out of Central Casting. He looks like somebody like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. This guy is a perfect face that represents criminals.
He does, actually. Now that you mention it.
I told him that to his face, too. It's like, you look like somebody out of Central Casting, a perfect type that would represent a bunch of criminals.
So how does Monty Frank get away with telling the subpoenaed witness that Wolfgang Halbig actually had to pay, to have subpoenaed, and he tells that person or dismisses that person from showing up?
I have no idea. If that was me or you, we'd be in jail for not showing up. And it boggles me. And I don't know why the court there didn't challenge that. Say, hey, wait a minute, there was a subpoena. Why'd you dismiss him? They didn't even question him on that.
See, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like that alone is pretty evident of some something being clearly awry. I mean, if someone is subpoenaed and you know, like you're required, and he was supposed to be there the last time also.
Exactly. And
this helicopter pilot.
Yeah, that's right there. I mean, I really think if the helicopter pilot would have brought understand to say, yeah, we had communication, because that's what the questions were going to be. We had communication with we are providing support and communications of the aerial view to Sandy Hook Police. I mean, Newtown Police. That would right there. It would have put the Newtown Police Chief right there as perjury, because he's testified no, there was no communication at all, which is hard to believe. You know, why would you have a helicopter flying overhead and have no communication with them?
Right. And yeah, so again, that came out in the last hearing, and I mean, so if that's found out to actually like not be true, I mean, you know, can anybody be, you know, charged with, you know, I mean, I don't know the exact terminology of.
I think it's perjury for lying.
Right.
I think that's the terminology. I hope I'm right.
Yeah.
But things are complicated sometimes. But the other one too, I mean, we were on the way out, confronting the police chief on the way out. The Newtown first selectman, Patricia Warda, she handed Monty Frank a check, and she said something about the Board of Education. Now, my other cameraman caught him doing it, and I guess I didn't see what was going on because I was interested in going after Keyhole. And basically, he got a lot of it on film, and I kept yelling for him to come over or whatever. But we don't know what this is about, so I'm not speculating anything. She handed him a check, and she said something about the Board of Education, and she, again, Attorney Monty Frank. We don't know if this is his attorney's fees or whatnot, but what is she doing paying him? And she said something about the Board of Education. So what is the Board of Education doing paying an attorney? I mean, is this a payoff or is it just his attorney fees? We got to look more into this before I start speculating anything. And, it's really crazy. And I want to address one thing, if I could, for 1 minute here. There's a lot of trolls out there making tons and tons of videos of saying Wolfgang is a fraud, he's stealing all people's money. Well, I want to address you people right now, okay? First of all, if you have any clue and idea how much it costs, now, mind you, Wolfgang lives in Florida, okay? For him, just the fee, the money to fly him and his attorney to Connecticut, okay? The hotel and expenses, okay? That alone, okay, costs well about $2,000 a bed, okay? Now you get the subpoena fees, I think he said it's about $300 to subpoena each person.
Usually people that are frauds are people that are making money, not spending money to find out the truth, you know. As opposed to people that want to hide the truth to make money.
Yeah.
I mean, like those people calling Wolfgang a fraud, I mean, again, like why don't they, call the city of Newtown a fraud?
Exactly.
They're probably being paid by the town of Newtown. And so do you have any idea when the next hearing will be?
The next hearing, I guess they're waiting for a decision by the judge. He stated that he will have a decision, and basically Wolfgang and his attorney demanded that there was that they have everything they requested to be ordered by the court to get it. So I guess they're waiting on a decision. He hasn't given a decision, so they're waiting on a decision. But Wolf said his next step right now is to go after Homeland Security for the records and everything else.
So there will be another hearing.
Yeah. So it'll be against Homeland Security for the log-on sheets. So there should be another. It's not confirmed yet. So there should be another, hearing coming up, and I imagine it's just one of many coming, because they're going to keep trying to play this out. And again, when I was saying, people, you need to really understand how much it costs to put this stuff on. I mean, just for him to pay for him being there June 3rd, it costs him thousands and thousands of dollars. His attorney fees is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Call fees fees and everything else. So people, you need to understand before you go running your mouth saying, "Oh, he's stealing people's money." Okay, you need to understand and realize reality and know how much it costs to put on this kind of operation of a lawsuit.
Right, he's stealing it so he can go on vacation to Hartford, Connecticut, and be in a FOIA hearing.
Exactly.
Okay, well, thank you, Dan BiDONDI
Oh,
of InfoWars. And
Infowars.com and TruthRadioShow.com. And on that website, you can find all my YouTube channels, all my social media, and everything else.
and the live stream.
The live stream, it's Ustream, it's on Ustream, but Truth Radio Show, you'll find it. If you type in Truth Radio Show or Dan BiDONDI on live stream, I don't know the exact URL, but I mean, you'll find it on that.
Thank you so much.
It's also posted on TruthRadioShow.com, my link to the Ustream.
So I hope to see you at the next hearing.
Oh, will do, and I can't wait to see you too, because I wish you were there to confront you, because I know you would have a lot of words to say to these scumbags.
Yeah, we all need funding to be able to do all of this work, you know.
Oh, it is. And wait, you're from Massachusetts, right?
Me, I'm in New York.
New York, yeah. If you to come from New York and me to come from Rhode Island, I mean, it's a hike for both of us. So, I mean, like, that's how they, laugh at the trolls when they think they know what they're talking about. We're stealing people's money. No, we're trying to bring, for me, I mean, even though the Ustream was free, but for the gas and the expenses, it cost me a lot of money to get down there. You know what I mean? And it's just like, we got to take time out of work on top. I lost a full day's pay of my regular job being there.
Yep, exactly. It costs money to go after the truth.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Dan BiDONDI.
God bless you, Cap.
Yeah, you too, Dan. Thank you.
Yep, bye.
Bye. And with that, I am going to plug my YouTube channel, April, like the month, and Waters, Watters. Like Wayne Madsen said, and Dan BiDONDI said, truth takes funding. So much of the people that have the money use their money to spin things and genetically modify things, and we need money and funding to give organic media. There is a link on my YouTube channel which gets very minimal traffic. Would be great to have a little bit of traffic going through there, and to bring truth, because I mean it's being said over and over that there is dying media. The media on television is entertainment, like Wayne Madsen had said. So with that, I have one more. I re-interviewed Les Jamieson only because last week his interview did not come over very well at all because he was via cell phone. So this time I was able to interview him on Skype, and it came out much clearer. Okay, this is a take 2 interview with Les Jamieson. This Tuesday, June 9th, we're re-recording it because his previous interview from last Tuesday's show did not come out so great, so we're going to do a take 2 on the press conference. It was last Tuesday in D.C. at 10 a.m., just about this time, on the declassification of the 28 pages in a packed Capitol press conference. And so, Les Jamieson, you were present at this press conference. How did it come to be that Rand Paul is on board with this decision?
Well, thanks, Catherine, first for having me on this week to cover this important development. To answer your question, former Senator Robert Graham, who has been working very hard for the release of these 28 pages from the Senate Joint Inquiry for many years, actually since 2003, when he was aware of the House Resolution HR 14 being an issue that has come up to also release the 28 pages. He sort of became re-energized and wanted to re-enter this whole issue here, re-enter with the effort here to get the 28 pages released. He was present at the press conference back in January, that was January 7th, where H.R. 14 was introduced to the new Congress by Congressman Walter Jones and Stephen Lynch. And he came up from Florida especially to help support that effort, and additionally to start the ball rolling in terms of reaching out to senators to introduce a companion bill within the Senate. See, in the House they have resolutions, in the Senate they have bills, and this is the process of how issues become law. So he has been working behind the scenes along with Congressman Walter Jones all these months since January to identify certain senators that would be willing to submit a Senate bill to work in parallel with the House bill. That's what just occurred. Senator Rand Paul and Senator Ron Wyden agreed to co-sponsor the Senate bill here that would also call for the release of the 28 pages, the secret 28 pages which were redacted from the Senate Joint Inquiry on 9/11. And additionally, New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand signed on right away as a co-sponsor. So we have 3 so far, and this is very significant. Obviously, it's significant that Rand Paul is at the lead of this effort because he not only is a candidate for president, running for president here in the Republican Party, but he also was the one to filibuster the extension of the Patriot Act, Section 215, which is the section that deals with bulk data collection. So that was significant, and he got an awful lot of news coverage for that. Ron Wyden is very significant in the context that he is a member of the the Senate Intelligence Committee. This is a committee that all the requests to read the 28 pages have to go through. See, what we're hoping for, Catherine, is that all members of the Senate and the House submit a request through their Intelligence Committee to read the 28 pages. There is a process to do this, and they submit a request, and the committee reviews it, and I believe takes a vote on it. And then the legislator is directed to the vault, a secret location where all these classified documents are stored. They then enter the room. They cannot take any notes. They are just allowed to go in. They're given the document, and they can read the document and leave, and that's it. So they all have the clearance to do that, and this is what we're hoping will happen. And again, given that Ron Wyden is a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, this is very significant because I think this will make it a very favorable scenario for all the senators to get access to the 28 pages.
And they've all read it. Walter Jones, Ron Wyden, Kirsten Gillibrand, Rand Paul.
I know that Ron Wyden, Walter Jones, also Senators, I'm not sure about Ron Wyden or Kirsten Gillibrand or Rand Paul for that matter. I'm not positive that they've read the 28 pages themselves yet. That's a good question. Interestingly, a politician can co-sponsor the legislation even prior to having read it, the 28 pages. For instance, Alan Grayson of Florida, who's a very strong leading progressive, has sponsored or co-sponsored the H.R. 14, and for some strange reason, he was denied access to the 28 pages.
But Walter Jones has read it.
Walter Jones has definitely read it.
And he says that it has nothing to do with national security, like there's no reason why they shouldn't be declassified.
Absolutely. Same thing for Senator Robert Graham, same thing for Congressman Stephen Lynch and Thomas Massey, who are co-sponsors of H.R. 14. They all say there's nothing in there that would jeopardize national security, but to the contrary, Stephen Lynch just said this last Tuesday at the press conference that our national security policy would be better informed with the release of the 28 pages. And Senator Graham has gone further in saying that there would be no ISIS today had the 28 pages been released.
In this piece from the Executive Intelligence Review, it says all of the speakers descended together down a spiral staircase. Sorry, where is that part? Where they pretty much narrowed it down to Saudi Arabia as having been involved somehow. Singled out Saudi Arabia as the wellspring of the 9/11 attacks and subsequent jihadist terrorism.
The 28 pages, we believe, and this is what Senator Graham and others have intimated, that there's evidence in there about funding that went to certain of the 19 alleged hijackers coming from certain Saudi royals and possibly a charity, a Muslim charity. That said, there has been an awful lot of bits and pieces of evidence of Saudi collusion and aiding and abetting of the 9/11 attacks. Furthermore, there's a whole body of evidence by a State Department official named Michael Springman, who was working in Saudi Arabia and involved in giving visas to travelers to the U.S. from Saudi Arabia. And he spoke how the vast majority of them were allowed to obtain visas without fully complying with the requirements to prove their identity, without face-to-face meetings, and he was told by CIA higher-ups to allow this violation of protocol for that particular situation there in Saudi Arabia. So there's quite a lot. There's that does point to Saudi Arabia involvement in definitely the raising of questions of Saudi Arabian involvement. And that said, if you really listen to the statements of the congressmen, the people who have read the 28 pages, they also allude to, quote, other countries, certain Middle East countries, and certain U.S. agencies. So there's an awful lot there. And one last point about Saudi Arabia. The Bush family has a long-standing business and personal relationship with certain Saudi royals. Everybody should be aware of the close relationship with the Saudi prince named Bandar, who was the ambassador from Saudi Arabia at the time of 9/11. And everybody should be aware of the fact that George W. Bush allowed the evacuation of 140 Saudi nationals in the days after 9/11, including about 40 bin Laden family members. So this is all very suspicious. It was never fully explained. It still must be explained, and these 28 pages will go a long way towards opening up that whole range of questioning.
And so his name is not Bandar Bush, is that what they just call him?
That's what they call him. Exactly. They feel that he's that close that they made him a family member.
Yeah, that's pretty incriminating, the fact that 40, as you said, Saudis were allowed out to fly out on the day of 9/11 after the attacks.
Well, it was 140.
Oh, 140, oh my God.
Yes, and 40 of them were bin Laden family members.
Wow. I mean, exactly. So there's definitely, that's key evidence right there.
Yeah, it is.
And so, how much closer to getting them released? Also, because the family members are also behind this, the families who lost their loved ones at 9/11.
Absolutely. There were several family members there on that day at the press conference, and there is a lawsuit by family members against the government of Saudi Arabia for their involvement. And because when you work to solve any crime, one of the key lines of investigation is, who funded, who had the means, where's the money trail lead, and that's what the family members have been seeking all these years. And interestingly, their lawsuit was first dismissed. They appealed, and the higher appeals court reinstated their lawsuit. So it is now proceeding forward. They absolutely need the release of these 28 pages.
And were any of the family members permitted to read the 28 pages? Or is it?
No.
Oh. Okay.
No, only they're classified.
Oh.
They're all very upset about this, especially after 14 years here, and especially given the fact that there was no reason in terms of national security to classify them in the first place.
Right.
And they're very frustrated now with President Obama. Why would he be continuing to keep that information secret, especially if it implicates negative things about his predecessor, who's a Republican, George W. Bush. And this goes further than George Bush. It goes to the neoconservative think tank people that were around George Bush. Paul Wolfowitz, Richard Pearl, Dick Cheney, Don Rumsfeld, Condoleezza Rice, and James Bolton, Douglas Feith, all these people that were members of the think tank called Project for a New American Century. Scooter Libby is another one. So this is all, due to be revisited and scrutinized because the classification of this whole chapter of this report should have never occurred in the first place. So what we're asking people to do is go to hr14.org and take action. It's a matter of minutes. There's a section at hr14.org called Take Action, Letter to the House. You just put in your zip code, and a letter will go directly to your member of Congress. Very important. Then we hope you'll get in contact with us to help organize and raise consciousness. We need to be putting this out on social networking and wherever we can to urge the government to do the right thing. Release the 28 pages. We liken this to the missing 18 minutes in the Nixon Watergate tapes.
Very good. Hopefully it won't take 50 years to solve this case.
That's right. That's right. We don't have 50 years, Catherine.
Or I could say that again. Okay, Les Jamieson, 9/11 Truth, Architects and Engineers of 9/11 Truth also. Thank you so much for being on Awake Radio.
You bet. Thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so that's it for our show. Please tune in again next Tuesday. Please go to April Waters' YouTube channel. Even $1. If everybody that viewed my videos donated $1, I can be independent media, because all the others are bought and genetically modified. Thank you, and good night.